Alright, YouTube. As you can see, it is hot as hell. It's like 80 degrees summer weather. It's like less than a week of being Halloween. So I thought I'd come up with a nice, interesting YouTube video for my audience. A well-deserved, fun, fun-loving type of video. Not too serious. It's going to be a sex game video, but it ain't going to be talking about no sex. And this video today is going to be focusing on stuff from my childhood past, stuff from your childhood past, stuff that we all can relate to, good and bad. And that is PlayStation versus Xbox 360. So what's better? Now, as a kid growing up, I always was fond of playing video game consoles. Something to interest me, something to intrigue me, something to challenge me. Whenever the Power Rangers wasn't on, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when I wasn't watching wrestling, or the NBA or the NFL season was not in season, I needed something to keep me entertained. And like every little boy and every little girl, which today is a man and a woman today, there was Sega Genesis. There was Game Boy. You remember those days of the 80s and the 90s? Remember that Sega Genesis commercial whenever we were obsessed with X-Men and some of the best X-Men video games? Every time it was a Sega video game, you would have a little kid scream out and he would just lose his mind. He'll just go, Sega Genesis! Those were the fun times that made you want to save up your money and go buy you a Sega Genesis video game. Didn't it? And if you were a Sega Genesis person, you were a Game Boy. Like, I actually had both systems. Like, my mom bought me 2 or 3 Game Boys when I was a kid. I would play wrestling on there, play NBA on there, play football on there, baseball on there. And then if it was Sega Genesis, it was all of the fighting games that you could ever want to play. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Double Dragons. Those were the days when you start off with Sega Genesis and Game Boy. And as we move closer to the 1990s, you notice that both of these video game consoles began to struggle, as in 1994, a new concept had came into play. PlayStation. Where they would take all the popular video games that you had seen before and upgrade them and make them look like they were live action. It was like you could literally look at the screen and Luke Kane or Johnny Cage or Ryu or Ken Masters from Street Fighter would be looking dead at you. That's how surreal it was. And I didn't get a PlayStation because it was too expensive at the time. Like, my mom and my dad was like, look, it's too expensive. So, like every little kid, when I got out of school or on Saturdays, when I had a chance to go to the mall, I would go wait until my mom and dad wasn't looking, sneak off, and go play the new PlayStation that came out. I wouldn't get a PlayStation until, like, maybe 5 years later. And by the time we got to, 2000, we had the introduction of what? Dun, da, da, you guessed it, PlayStation 2. And PlayStation 2 was like being very advanced. Like, PlayStation 2 made the PlayStation look like it was nothing. Now it had introduced something never before. Like, you could now play movies. You could play DVDs of movies and television shows and anime on your PlayStation 2. You didn't have to go run to the store and buy DVD player or Blu-ray. You had a third choice. PlayStation 2 allowed you to play movies, television, music. You could even set a time clock on there. If you didn't have an alarm system, it had an alarm system. And it had a switch that it would turn itself off. And then, of course, that legendary sound that you hear when you was a kid and a teenager, PlayStation. I mean, just the way they would just find ways to get you interested and excited for wholesome American entertainment those were some fun childish days. I mean, child days. I mean, think about it. NBA 2K was better because of PlayStation. NBA Live, you had to get on, a Tendo. Then there was the Mortal Kombat games, the Street Fighter games, the Tekken, the video games. Remember how you would buy a video game system and it came with a demo of 4 different games, and then you had to go back to the store and buy the actual game if you wanted to play the actual game for all the levels? That was great. That was fun as a kid. And then, of course, they made Sega Saturn, which I had Sega Saturn. Trust me, I had Sega Saturn. I loved it, Sega Saturn, but a lot of people weren't buying it. And then, of course, we got to 2006, the introduction of PlayStation 3. Now, I actually had a PlayStation 3, but it got damaged, and I was actually borrowing it from my mom's stepdad, my stepdad, of course. He had bought PlayStation 3, and it was good, and I was going to save my money up to buy it. But at this point, I was into more sports. I was now into basketball and football, and turned away from wrestling. The animes weren't being shown on cable as much. I mean, this is the year that we're starting to not show as much anime. Like, once Dragon Ball Z was over, once Dragon Ball GT was over, it was like, what's the point? PlayStation 3 came out, I played it, and it seemed like it was even more advanced. Because now you had now they had it to where not only that you could play music and watch movies and television shows on DVD, you could now record music from off the actual cable channel. Like, you could literally have an option where you could record. So if you didn't necessarily have cable, or if you actually did, you could actually, as long as it was connected to the cable converter, let's see, 2013, when we had the cable converter box, you could now actually record movies, television shows, sports, music from off of PlayStation 3. So it was kind of like you don't have to now go to the store and buy the DVDs anymore. Because now it gave you a better option. You could record stuff. You could even make copies of stuff. Like PlayStation 2, people would try it and it didn't work. Where that didn't work, PlayStation 3 gave you the opportunity that now you can make a burner disc. So if your friend couldn't watch a season of a television show, it would be almost as if you were mass producing the DVDs. And then let's talk about the online action play. You played Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3. You could play online option. And with that online option, you could do whatever you want. And then we finally got to 2013. My bad. 2006 was PlayStation 3. My bad. I'm looking at a script. And then 2013 gave us the introduction of PlayStation 4. So it was 2013. They gave us the introduction of PlayStation 4, and it was the converter box. My bad. It was the converter box that allowed you to record movies, television shows, sports, and music. You could record them and play discs and movies if you bought them on DVD. Now, that was like at the height of its pinnacle. And then somewhere around 2010 and 2012, here comes Xbox. And a lot of people are like, what the hell, an Xbox? And when they came with Halo 4, you was like, oh boy. The Xbox seemed to like be very powerful. It had better design, special graphics, special effects. It was so real, you didn't know if it was a movie, a television show, or somebody opened the gateway and sucked you into that world and you thought it was real. Like, the Xbox now was real competition. And then out of nowhere, here comes Nintendo Wii. And then 2016, we get a Nintendo Wii DS. And then we get Xbox 360, where you could play virtually any games on there. And I started to come with this idea, junior high, high school, and college, I would argue back and forth with my friends which was better, PlayStation 3 or a Nintendo Wii. Then when they came with Nintendo Wii DX or DS, and they came with PlayStation 4, I would say I think PlayStation 4 beats both those designs. But then when the Xbox came out, everyone still chose PlayStation 4 over Xbox. But when they came with the Xbox 360, it was the first time that now PlayStation has some trouble. Now PlayStation has some problems because Microsoft was not playing with Sony. It was like, as a kid, I always was listening to Sony stuff. But then I looked at Microsoft and I said, Microsoft has stepped their game up. Microsoft ain't no joke. Microsoft ain't playing. That year, people bought more three Xbox 360s than they ever did PlayStation 4 ever. I was shocked. I remember I had like a conversation one day in the gym, and they told me Xbox 360 is better than PlayStation 4. And I was like, what? And it's like, yeah, it's got better design, special graphics, the video games the characters look real. The women in the video games be making you want to ask a woman out on a lunch date. And the interaction of live play is better than PlayStation 4. And then I remember a magazine came out, and it had PlayStation 4 and it had Xbox 360, and they were calling these the video game consoles of the future, and how far will they push their concepts and their ideas. I mean, if you think about PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 3, if you were good, you could put that in your car, your truck, your SUV, and play video games when you was on the road. But what do you think PlayStation 5 might bring? Do you think PlayStation 5 might let you order pay-per-view? I mean, think about it. I mean, that's the next logical step that I possibly can think of. I mean, think about it. They ain't done it with PlayStation 1. They tried it. It didn't work. They tried it with PlayStation 2. It didn't work. They tried it with PlayStation 3, but apparently they had to do a factory recall. They almost succeeded with PlayStation 4. Some people can get it in some countries and some people couldn't. So what do you think PlayStation 5 could be? Do you think PlayStation 5 will allow you to order stuff off of pay-per-view despite the fact you may not have cable? Will it allow you to do... I mean, think about it. What could PlayStation 5 do that the others have not done? Why Xbox 360 seem to be beating up PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4, that makes you wonder, will they come with another Xbox? I mean, think about it. Xbox seemed to just be dominant the past 5, 6, 7 years. And I always had my mind made up that if I was going to buy a video game console, it would come down to PlayStation 4 or Xbox 360. So I thought I would just share this nice, great, fun video with you guys and girls, because a lot of us remember this in junior high, high school, college. You remember the days where if you weren't going to the movies, you weren't going to the mall, the nightclubs, the bars, if you weren't watching sports on TV, you were playing either PlayStation 4 or Xbox 360. So the question I have to ask you is, what do you think is better? PlayStation 4? Xbox 360. Some of you, when you see this video, you'll spit out your Coca-Cola, you'll spit out your Pepsi, your Mountain Dew, your Sprite, your 7-Up, your Sierra Mist, your apple juice, your orange juice, your Coke 45, your tea, your water. You'd be like, what this man said? I'd have said PlayStation 4 versus Xbox 360. What is better? Sony versus Microsoft. So I just wanted to make a fun, enjoyable, entertaining video like all the other rest of them. So this one might intrigue you. This one might make you say, this guy's taking me back to the days when I was in high school and college. All right, I like this guy. This might make you subscribe to the channel. Not that you should have to. This might make you say, I want to see what other great stuff he made into a video. So I take great fun concepts and make them into videos. This one's more of a laid back, fun type of video. Tomorrow will be more of a straightforward series type of video. You know, once I figure out what the topic will be about. This one was more of a more fun, let's take you back down old memory lane type of video. Until then, peace.